Welcome to Unfoolish Investing, everybody. I'm Victor,
I'm Larry.
and this is episode 8. 8.
Time flies when you're having fun, man. 8 episodes. Holy cow.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Continues to be crazy, and the market continues to go insane. And I say that because I feel like just 2 to 3 weeks ago, we were talking about massive market drops, insanity, people losing their minds. And now
hmm
everything's been erased and we're setting new records. And as of today, prior to getting into this episode, our third core staple stock, Berkshire Hathaway, became the first non corporation. And I mean, they are not a company that is an NVIDIA or an Apple or a Microsoft to cross the $1 trillion mark.
Yeah, I think they're the first non-tech company
Is that
to
what it is?
to hit a
Non-tech?
trillion. Yeah. Um, I mean, what a testament to the set it and forget it ethos. Buy
I
good
mean,
companies at good prices and invest in them for the long term. And you could be worth $1 trillion someday.
it's crazy. It absolutely is crazy, but it's true. You set it, you forget about it, you just go on with living life, and one day you open up, you go to work, and you find out you're a trillionaire.
Yep.
With that said, we're going to talk about some hot button subjects that everybody in the investing world has been discussing in the last 24 hours. And we're going to start right now with everybody, except for possibly me's, favorite company, earnings alert, surprise, boom, or disappointing miss. Are you ready?
I'm
Let's do
here.
this.
I'm here. I'm excited. Let's go.
NVIDIA, Larry. NVIDIA.
I mean,
First off, let's just say they surpassed a market value of 3 trillion,
mhm.
making it one of only 3 US companies to achieve this milestone.
Yep.
On earnings today, you feel like the market value underscores the confidence in investors have, right, in NVIDIA as the leader in AI technology. They are at the top. There is
Yep.
NVIDIA in the world of AI and everything else. And
Yep.
how do you
Riding high.
feel? How do you feel about Nvidia's earnings? You want to share some numbers with us?
Yeah, I mean, the earnings were unbelievable. 122% jump in revenue. Um, they crossed 30 billion in quarterly revenue, um, which is a new high for them. Like you said, they're at 3.1% trillion or $3.1 trillion market cap. Um, and interestingly enough, they've become so large that they are 6% of the entire value of the S&P 500.
So, for these earnings report, would you classify Nvidia as a hit or a miss in your world?
So to me, it's a hit, um, with some caveats. If you're just looking at quarterly metrics, it was, um, it was a beat all around. But it's slowing a little bit. Um, you're not going to be a company, especially at the market value that they are now, um, with triple digit revenue growth year over year, quarter over quarter. That's just not sustainable. Um, and I think we're starting to see that slow down. Um, do I have long term confidence in the company? Absolutely. I don't think they're going anywhere, and I don't think their AI dominance is ending anytime soon. Um, I do think that the the charts are getting a little tough, where they had such blowout growth over the last 2 years, that the year over year comparisons are getting so much harder now. that I think the momentum is going to start to slow down a little bit over the next 12 to 18 months.
That's fair. Um, I'm gonna go on that, and I'm gonna say it was a miss. It was a miss for
Let's hear
me.
it.
It was a miss for me, and it's been a miss for me um, for a while now. I feel like NVIDIA is this rocket ship that went from being a $500 billion valued corporation, right,
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, to being worth $3 trillion today. And it's all because of OpenAI. OpenAI came out and launched ChatGPT, and NVIDIA stock went through the roof. Nothing, nothing to me has changed, and I hear it a lot on the street, and I've been saying it for the better part of a year. Um, NVIDIA to me is Cisco back in the 90s, right? They are going to, in my mind, hit this valuation, and they're going to be relatively flat, maybe up a little, maybe down a little,
Mm-hmm.
not too dramatic in either direction. I do not see them being able to reach 5 or 6 trillion, which would be a double
Yeah.
from here. So I don't see how they reach $200 a share. I don't see how they reach $300 a share. I just don't see how it's possible unless there's a technology out there right now, other than AI, right, that requires GPUs at this rate and amount that they're currently being gobbled up. And,
Yeah.
it's for me that I kind of look at it as a miss. And I personally think that an NVIDIA shareholder that sits here for the next 10 years is going to be disappointed. They're not going to be disappointed with what they've gotten over the past 3 years, but they're going to be disappointed with the fact that what they got in those first 3 years never happens again.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Um, I think the only like I do think there's a pathway to them almost doubling from here. Um, but there has to be some sort of business payoff with all this capex investment that these massive companies are doing. Um, if these companies don't start seeing some sort of return on all this AI investment, um, I could see it kind of Ciscoing, but probably not as bad. I don't think this is a our do over of like the .com bubble.
I'm not going to
Um,
say a do over, but I will say also when I look at the earnings, I didn't see any of the like, there's all these rumors that the Blackwell chip,
mhm,
right? That NVIDIA expects revenue to be through the roof with this AI chip, and the delays in creating enough of them.
mhm.
I didn't say, is that part of the reason why I feel like, even though they blew out, maybe they didn't go far enough? I'm not sure, but I just like, it's been a wild ride, and I just want to like quickly explain, right? This is Nvidia today at earnings, right? They closed, they went down 6% today. So clearly I feel like the market was seeing some negative. But Larry, this is Nvidia's history. If you purchased it back in 2002 and kept on buying it, you would have made relatively no money for 16 years. 16 years, you're like, oh. And then it's like a roller coaster. It's like Top Thrills Dragster at Cedar Point for any of you roller coaster people out there. right? It went 0 to 80 and straight up. In what, 2 years?
Yep.
I can't think of another company that's ever done that. Can you?
Not that quickly. Um, I do think there's probably a company or two out there that have had the same level of all-time return or a similar level of all-time return, but it was more sustained over a period of decades, not, to your point, not the last like 2 or 3 years.
I mean, look, that curve is insane. It's almost like, again, catapult launch. You're going down the straightaway. You're on that straightaway for almost 2 decades. And
I
then you
mean,
shoot up.
looking at this chart, I would love to see the person that bought NVIDIA at 4 cents.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
would love to meet the person that bought NVIDIA at 4 cents, and I would love to ask them to borrow some money.
And just like, and the other part is, did you fall asleep? Like, what made you buy it at 4 cents? It
Yeah,
never.
what did you hit your head and forget about it for 20 years?
Because that's the type. In order to take advantage of some of these risks, these stocks that shoot up, right? You really do have to have that set it and forget it mentality, which
Hmm.
is you buy into a company like NVIDIA that's making GPUs primarily for laptops and computers
Yep.
to run and for gaming for 2 decades.
Hmm.
Waiting, Larry, for Bitcoin, which I believe is right about here,
Yep. That's when I bought. That's when I started buying and
right?
bought most of it. Yeah.
So you got Bitcoin right here. Oh, we need GPUs for something else. We need GPUs for something else. And then right about here starts going up again. And what's that? A global pandemic. That's right. That was the next amazing
Hmm.
thing that happened to Nvidia. And then right about here, right? OpenAI launches ChatGPT, and we go down for a second, and then we go through the roof. Everybody needs AI. CFOs are writing checks to every CIO on the planet. How much do you need? Go buy as many as possible. And it's
Yep.
predominantly all that money's coming from Meta, Apple, and Microsoft. They have to be the three biggest acquirers of this tech. Would you agree?
Yep. Yeah, I think Amazon. You could throw Amazon in there, but I would say Amazon's probably a somewhat distant fourth.
So that's my take on NVIDIA earnings. I think that if you're up here and you bought down here, don't be afraid to take a little profit,
Yeah.
right? Don't
Yep.
be afraid
Totally
to
agree.
take a little profit. I'm totally fine if you want to let the rest of it run and just see what could possibly happen. But I also wouldn't be shocked if you went up 10, 15%, down 10, 15%
Yep.
for years.
Yep. Yeah, it's just so dependent on, to your point, right now, they are so dependent on 3 or 4 companies buying their chips. Um, that if there's any type of slowdown in ordering or spending from those, even just one of those companies, um, the stock's gonna dip probably 10-15% in a day.
Agreed. Okay, I think that's about sums it up for NVIDIA. And we're going to move on to the next stock of the day, and that is. Oh,
Well, I
CrowdStrike.
think it's a stock we've talked about before. Uh, one of my personal favorites, CrowdStrike.
Can I just say this may be the coolest logo in the history of corporate logos.
This is our podcast, man. You can say whatever you want.
I mean, I don't know what company out there can put their logo up against CrowdStrike. We have a giant red falcon with coming in, and I'm telling you, if that's an Apple, it's picking it up. I don't know what Microsoft's logo is, but the window, it's smashing through it.
Yep.
This thing is
I
just
do
an
like the
awesome
logo.
logo.
I gotta say, I've never really like examined it
Oh,
in
really?
detail
That
before, but it's pretty cool.
yes, yes. No, the logo is absolutely amazing to me. And for those of you that are not aware, CrowdStrike is the leading cybersecurity company. They just reported as well their second quarter earnings, a 5.8% jump immediately upon report. The company's performance exceeded expectations. I think they crushed it with key metrics like annual revenue and operating profit all beating analyst forecasts. And to me, that is pretty key. So I am going to take this away because I'm going to say that they hit the mark. What do you think, Larry?
Yeah, I think they're if you want to take the Federal Reserve term soft landing, um, I think they're trying to execute and executing well a proverbial soft landing of the stock. Um, the stock was flying high a couple months ago. They had the big outage where basically technology infrastructure was crippled for a short time. Um, a fix was quickly rolled out, but it was a mess for a little while. Um, they've owned that. They are doing what they can to mitigate losses, I think, for some of their customers. I do there I think there's going to be litigation involved. I don't think it's going to be a big risk for CrowdStrike. Um, I think this is a masterclass in how to handle something like this. George Kurtz has owned it, and they've, I think they've made the fixes internally. Um, and I don't see, to your point on the earnings, I don't see customers leaving. They did lower their full year guidance a little bit. Um, in the sake of customer retention packages, which I think is a fantastic idea. It's a sticky industry, make it a little stickier for people to leave. Um, I'm with you all around. All around win. Long term win for CrowdStrike here.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I think that they did recover from that outage beautifully. They continue to secure large deals.
Yep.
Their customer retention is phenomenal. Again, we can't use the word sticky enough, but when you're talking about this sector, companies tend to be very sticky and they're not going to let one outage scrap all their plans, especially when their cybersecurity, which they're hired CrowdStrike to do, didn't actually fail. It continued to work. It
Exactly.
just
Yep.
had a slight little hiccup there with the patch.
Yep.
Only Windows machines. That's right. Get a Mac. Sorry. Uh, no preference.
Do you happen to own Apple stock?
Just a couple shares. Um, but I think while their performance was solid, it's important for me to tell people that you need to keep an eye on the fact that they did lower revenue guidance. Um, the market, for some reason, seems to believe that the worst of the fallout is over. But I still think that just because they lowered revenue guidance might tell me that a couple of those deals that they thought they were going to sign during this past quarter might have dropped, or they're still trying to get them on board, but there seems to be a little bit of a pause, and I think
Yeah.
the pause could hurt them over the next 1 to 2 quarters. I don't think it's going to impact revenue as much, but I do think that that's why they lowered their revenue guidance for the year, because of that outage. It's that cautionary tale that you see a CEO do, that now if they end up beating it, you're going to watch that stock go up 20%.
Yep.
At the end of the year. They're like, oh, after all, we came out of this and we're going to blow by what we thought we were going to do.
Yeah, I think some of this customer retention stuff, to your point about the incoming potential deals, they might have had to sign some of these clients at a little less favorable terms, new customers at less favorable terms in the wake of the outage. Um, that might have an effect on their earnings in the short term, but shouldn't be an issue long term.
Yeah, and I think like if you look at CrowdStrike right now, right, they did roughly 2 to 3% today, but the stock was up as high as 275, 276. At one point, hit 285. So it really was all over the, all over the place today. It went up. It went to 261. Like, that really is a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Which tells me that no one was 100% sure on what to do with these earnings. So I feel like finishing the day up 2 to 3% is good considering everything that it went through the last month.
Yep.
So I mean, for me, CrowdStrike still remains a compelling option in that cybersecurity space. Even Sentinel-1, I'm looking at you. I know you want to come eat CrowdStrike's lunch. I just don't see it right now. Especially given CrowdStrike's track record for growth. The stock's volatility is expected. I would just say I'm leaving this with a strong buy, with a little caution. Just a little bit of caution. So if you are about to put in, a few hundred or a few thousand, maybe pare that back just a little and drop it in over the span of like 2 to 3 months. Maybe a little here, maybe the following month on the 29th, you put a little bit more in. Maybe the following month on the 29th again, you drop in your last. That way you're buying it in incremental positions and you're not going all in at once. And maybe you get a buy-in at the 260s. Maybe you get a buy-in at the 280s. Or maybe it's in the 3s. But at least you are, not putting it all in at the same time. Thoughts?
Yeah, I love the strategy. I mean, the stock was hovering around 200. What is it? 3 weeks ago, a month. At this point, so I love the incremental buys. I don't like giant lump sum investing for that exact reason. If you lump sum bought into CrowdStrike 2 months ago, you were buying close to 400, and you'd be down 35%.
Now let's look at CrowdStrike, because CrowdStrike is a lot different than NVidia. NVIDIA's been around for a generation plus, right? CrowdStrike's been around for 3 to 4 years. So they're still early on in their infancy. They've only gone up 300%. That isn't a whole... What?
I said only 300%.
It is, and it seems like an awful lot, and I feel like, had I put it all in back in 21 and not been dripping in, I'd probably have a lot more. But my plan is to continue to buy for the next 10 years plus. And I buy on a weekly basis. I use my SoFi investing platform to schedule my reoccurring buys into CrowdStrike because I'm setting it
and forgetting it.
That's right. And I never have to think like, did I buy CrowdStrike this week? I know that on every Friday, I'm going to buy some. I know it's coming out. I'm buying it. I don't have to worry about it. It just continues on and on. And that's the whole point of the set it and forget it strategy. I personally choose SoFi for my set it and forget it strategy. There's a few other platforms out there, but that's my personal favorite. And when I drip in, that's how I do it.
Yep, same thing. CrowdStrike's a weekly buy for me. I buy at the beginning of every week, and I set that up however long ago. It's automatic, no emotion. I don't have to do anything except, watch it grow. It's like the mix between Ronco rotisserie and a chia pet.
Um, you know, I wasn't originally, going to talk about this today, but another company that I'm a big fan of just also reported earnings, and that's Chewy. And fun fact, I do not have a pet. I do not have a pet.
But see, you're not letting that stop you from investing in what you think is a good company,
I
because
I
a
am
lot of people that have pets and
it.
how dedicated they are to their pets.
It's true, and let me tell you a quick story. The whole reason I started investing in Chewy had nothing to do with their earnings. It's a weird like, and this kind of like, I'm not telling people to follow this strategy, but it was it was the fact that I was talking to somebody that had a pet that had recently passed away, and they were telling me that Chewy, this company right here, sent them flowers and a condolence card around their animal. And my mind was like, and I was like, this is genius to respect an animal lover in their worst time by doing something like this. And it got me to start talking to more and more families with animals and asking them, do you use Chewy? And they started telling me, yeah, we do that Amazon Prime with Chewy. And I'm like, what is that? They're like, oh, they just show up, boxes of food, boxes of treat every single month, like a subscribe and save to the door.
Yep.
And then I'm like, okay, I need to dive into this company and I'm going to go buy a little stock. And I just started out with like maybe $100. And then I started learning more and more and more about the brand, about how they executed, about who they were. And I just kept on adding. And then I started setting up a drip. And then I started buying in chunks. And I was like, this is a company that I want to be a part of. Thought on Chewy, Larry?
I mean, I've been invested in Chewy for quite some time. Their customer service is legendary out there. To your point, I've heard countless stories of situations like that where an animal's passed away and Chewy sends the owner flowers and condolences. And you know, they do have auto ship. Auto ship's amazing. Um, I have it set up for some of my dog's stuff. Um, I think that Chewy has the potential to become the Amazon of the pet universe. Um, do I think they're going to be like a multi-trillion-dollar company like Amazon? Probably not. Um, but if they play their cards right, they could be the one-stop online warehouse, supermarket, whatever you want to call it, for all things pets.
I agree. And I feel like the more I continue to learn about Chewy, especially right here, the Chewy Pharmacy is one area
Mm-hmm.
that kind of like I dug into, and I'm like, the fact that they have an apothecary that is like custom
Yeah. You can
putting
get
together
compound meds, compound animal meds. Yeah.
it's it just it's like, wow, they
Yep.
truly care and they're taking that personal touch, which I feel like a lot of companies miss, that I feel like is so important as an investor. It's, it's about caring about the consumer and caring about, in this case, the consumer's animal. And they care about everybody involved. They got the 24/7 support for the parent of the animal. They got the pharmacy for the meds. And I even talked to one pet owner. And if you're a pet owner out there and you use Chewy for this, I'd love to hear about it. Custom animal food in order to like meet certain dietary requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's next level. And to me, this is the type of brand loyalty that you're looking for when you're investing into a company. This is stickiness.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you, I'm not in, I grew up with, animals. Sadly, my son's highly allergic to animals. Um, but the one thing that I've discovered most about Americans is they never just have one pet. They typically have multiple. Some do have one. I've met a few of them, but I tend to find a lot of multi, and it might be a dog and a cat, a dog and a gerbil, something. But it's every time I go for walks or runs or just like strolling around and I see those Chewy boxes on front steps, I just smile. And I'm like, that's why you invest. That's why you invest in a company, because it's that type of stickiness that I feel like.
Yeah.
And I just want to pull up Chewy's stock.
And they're finally making money. It's been a long journey, but they're finally making a profit regularly.
Yeah, and to that point, if you see right here on the screen, let me see if I can maximize that. Chewy's around 28.70 now. They went on a roller coaster. And this is what I tell people. They started out around $34 a share. They went all the way up to $118 a share during the pandemic. And yes, I was still buying the entire time. I was still buying the entire time.
Yeah.
And coming down, still buying the entire time. So I own shares at the top, but I continue to own shares at the bottom. I currently have a dollar cost average in the 40s, which puts me negative, 20-ish, 30-ish percent.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
But I'm still buying. I even added to the stock today. And it's because I saw the earnings come out, right? I read through them, and I was like, this is a company on the turnaround. This is a company that is starting to make money and starting to finally hit their stride again. Because there are a lot of companies that took off during the pandemic and fell apart and continue to fall apart. Chewy's like, nope, we're going to continue on. I still see those subscribers. Those subscriber numbers continue to grow. The revenue per subscriber continues to tick up, which is what I like. If you're typically spending $20 a month, now you're spending like $25 a month. That to me is, significant change. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean they crossed a big customer milestone this quarter. They got 20 million active customers. And to your point, their net sales per active customer is up to a record high $565. I'm assuming that's per year. They had a lot of efficiencies that needed to be worked out, and they've worked those out over the last couple of years. They had supply chain problems. They had problems where they were just selling things at a loss to have customers come in. They had too many loss leaders to get folks in the ecosystem, where now they don't really need to do that as much anymore. Finally starting to make money. I feel like things have started to stabilize for Chewy. Um, I'm still buying. My average is like in the 50s. I think it's 55, so I'm down by like half. Um, but I liked it at 100. I'm buying it at 28. I was buying it before it went up to 28. Um, so I'm sticking with it.
You know,
I'm a pet
as
owner. I feel like I have to own it.
yeah, and I'm not a pet owner, and I feel like I have to own it. I feel like I have to own a brand that takes care of their customers in the good times and in the worst times. And to
Mm-hmm.
me, that is a loyalty that that customer is going to always remember. And I feel like it's those times where they're like, you know what, I'm staying with Chewy. You know what, I yeah, maybe I could get it cheaper at Walmart, but I'm not. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm staying with Chewy because it's more than just where I buy my pets food,
Yep.
toys, pharmacy
Yep.
product, you know.
And just to plug something else, because I know you're not a pet owner, but this will be a big deal for pet owners. If your pet is on a medicine or has a recurring prescription, Chewy handles all of that with your vet. You don't have to do anything. So you don't have to you can put the information into Chewy, what the drug is and whatever. So like my dog has a heartworm medicine that he takes every month. All I have to do is plug that in, and I put in my veterinarian's information. Chewy contacts the vet, handles everything, gets all the approvals, gets the right dosage. Next thing I know, it just shows up at my house. And they do that with all of their medicines.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I feel
So
like
it
that
would be like if it's like you have your own, if you have children and they have medicines and you have to deal with the doctors and the pharmacies, and it's like having a concierge advocate that does all that for you behind the scenes. You don't have to do anything.
and I just wanted to share this with folks because we've talked that we were buying it up and at the bottom. Um, all our buys in the last 6 months are up
Mm-hmm.
60%. So all these buys down here in the 16 range, to me, offset just a little bit of those buys in the 100 range. That's the importance of dollar cost averaging, and that's the importance of not panicking
Mm-hmm.
when a stock that used to be $100 is now $16, but wait, it's now $28. If the brand is still doing what you thought it was doing in the hundreds, and you thought that
Yep.
that was a good price, it's even a better price now. And you continue to go, it'll get back up there. It'll just make all these purchases that much sweeter.
It's the power of compounding right there.
It's true. And with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us on episode 8 of Unfoolish Investing. To hit the like button or subscribe. Until next time, stay unfoolish.
Thanks, everyone.